Hey everybody, Rhadamant here. Thanks for tuning in to the very first episode of Starsector, which originally aired live on Twitch. Alright, let's kick this off. As promised, I will be going through the tutorial, and we'll be starting a new game. And as you can see in the about, it will be a mixed galaxy age and a normal sector size. So I'm going to name myself Rhadamant, to no surprise. So if you take a look at the portraits, the only ones that are, all portraits are basically the same. It doesn't matter. It's all cosmetic. But the ones that are like red like this are clearly pirates or designed to be pirates. I don't think any of them look like me, so I'm going to pick just that guy. Sort of almost pirate, but not quite. I won't be playing on Iron mode because I am not that good. And my sector registry, my seed here as you can see it, I'll probably share it on YouTube, but it's random. As you can see, I didn't pick this at all. So, my most recent occupation was, I am going to be a bounty hunter commanding a Wolf-class frigate. Now, there is the Scavenger, who is probably best designed for trading. And then Explorer, Mercenary, and Freelancer. The Explorer and the Mercenary are more rich, they're more wealthy, and therefore they skip a lot of the early game struggle. I don't suggest to do that unless you want to cut out the first, 10 hours of gameplay or 15 hours of gameplay. Yeah. And then the Freelancer, which is just totally random. So I'm going to do Bounty Hunter. I think we're going to be more combat oriented. And then I am not going to have a second in command. I'd rather hire them myself. So instead, I'm going to have a Shepherd class drone tender full of heavy machinery, which is a good trade good. It's also useful for other things, and we'll be playing on normal. And we are going to have the tutorial. Hey, Trustin. Oh man, so much is happening. My activity feed. I'll catch up in a second. Mr. Pokemon, thanks for Pokemon. Thanks for the follow, and Trustin for the raid. You were playing RimWorld. I caught some of that. You looked cold and hungry. Glitch for bits, MVP, and Demtacos for resubs, and Fangface for bits as well, and Sky Collective as well. So, let me get to the story. Welcome to the sector. Your fleet is in the middle of nowhere and critically low on supplies. If you don't acquire more supplies, your fleet will suffer through a slow but ultimately fatal decline. So this is about a game mechanic called supplies. Supplies, you can think of it as food and water, more or less. All ships require a certain amount of supply upkeep per day, and once you hit supplies 0, your ships will start to fall apart. I guess supplies is also like nuts, bolts, steel, that kind of stuff. It's just generic supplies. And then eventually your ship will fall apart enough that you'll die. There are some really easy ways to die in Starsector. 1 is to run out of supplies, and 2 is to run out of fuel. It can be very challenging to make sure that you have enough supplies and fuel, but, do as you can. Fortunately, there's a debris field nearby. Move into it and activate your scavenge ability to search it for useful cargo. Scavenging requires heavy machinery, but there's some in your cargo holds. Also, I started with the drone tender, which has more machinery in it. Make sure to take all the supplies and other valuable cargo, but feel free to leave the cheap and bulky metals behind. Get your fleet moving, click on empty space in the direction you want to move into. So, the way the game works here, right now we are in sort of travel mode. So there's combat, is galaxy combat, and then there are galaxy travel, and then there is solar system travel. So right now we are in a solar system. We are in Angsira, I guess. I don't know how to pronounce it. And we're traveling around the solar system. If you take a look down here, I have 0 fuel. You don't need fuel traveling around in solar systems, only on the galaxy map. And then, I have 30 fuel. I only have 10 supplies, and I'm using about 0.3 supplies per day. I am obviously critically low on supplies as a result. Now, when you want to move, all you got to do is hold the mouse button in relation to your ships. So if I hold back here, I turn around. If I hold up here, I go forward. It's just that simple. There is a lag delay time for controlling your ships, so if you can't do like tight maneuvers all the time. As you can see, if I'm spiraling around my ship, I'm not really spinning, I'm just sort of going in one direction. There's some, input delay. Dragon Slayer dude, thanks for the gifted sub, and Shellbell for the resub, and Dragon Slayer for the bits, JD for the resub, Trustin and Orton. Thank you all. So, down here, where my mouse is, as you can see, press 6 to start scavenging. This is the tutorial, and the tutorial will carry you through maybe the first hour or so. It really depends on how fast we go. So, your fleet assumes a stable orbit relative to the debris field. The field appears stable and will not drift apart anytime soon. Long-range scans indicate it is possible something of value could be found inside. So possible is not a great scavenge. Likely is better. Unlikely, and it can get worse than possible. And then the salvage that remains is extremely difficult to get to, and there's a high risk involved in running a salvage operation. We don't really have a choice. The game wants us to salvage, so we're going to access it. So here, at this point, we have, ideally, it wants us to have 80 crew to do this salvage, and we only have 46, which means that the salvage is more difficult because we're, short-staffed. But I do have all this heavy machinery that I need. And this tells you how effective our scavenge is. It's a whopping 7%. And an accident during the operation has resulted in the loss of 1 crew and 5 heavy machinery. And I got 22 supplies, 1 fuel, 11 heavy machinery, and 4 metals. You can hit R to take all, and then G to confirm and continue. It did tell me that I could leave the metals behind. So if you mouse over the metals, it has a base value of 30 credits per unit, which is very low compared to supplies, which is 100. Obviously supplies is more valuable, but we do have the cargo space. So down here in the bottom left, we have my total credits, my supplies and supply use per day, my crew in the fleet, which is 45 because 1 person died. And the other number there is the bare minimum number of crew to be able to have the ships run. And on the right side is Marines. This white bar here is the total cargo capacity. So if I didn't have room, you would want to ditch things that have the lowest value. So heavy machinery here has 150 credits per unit. Obviously, it's way more valuable than metals, 5 times so. Then this next here is personnel capacity. Personnel capacity is your maximum crew. So sometimes you're going to want more people than your maximum size. Unexpected Giraffe, thanks for all the gifted subs, and Fangface for the bits. Welcome. What a welcome indeed. Under that is fuel capacity. So we looted 1 fuel, brought us up to 31 out of 60. And then this is burn level, which is sort of travel speed. And there's a variety of things that could change your burn level. You can also hit F1 for more info. So my ship moves at a burn level of 10. And then the Shepherd class that I'm escorting, or that is in my fleet, has a burn level of 9. You only can move at the speed of the slowest ship in your fleet, so we're moving at speed 9. Under here is combat readiness. Combat readiness is basically how ready the ships in your fleet are ready to fight. Really low combat readiness, and it will cause a lot of maintenance problems on your ship. Weapons won't work, engines might fail, shields might go down. You want to keep your combat readiness high, because if you go into a combat situation with a damaged ship that's not combat ready, you will get your butt kicked. Then you have your sensor range. Your sensor range is how well you search for other ships, and then your sensor profile, how obvious it is that other ships can find you. In this game, you can become a smuggler. There are upgrades to your ship, which allows you to hide your ship well and shrink your sensor profile. making it so that you can, smuggle things like organs and weapons to planets that otherwise would be illegal. Then this here is the fleet-wide hull and armor status. Everything is repaired. And then what ships are being repaired right now, which are none. So that's enough of that. Now, this debris field here, you can scavenge it multiple times if you wanted to, but every successive time increases the difficulty and lowers the rewards and increases the chance that something goes wrong. So there is a really high diminishing returns. A lot of players will tell you to scavenge at least once, if not twice, but probably no more than twice. For me, I usually only scavenge once unless I have a salvage ship in my fleet, which increases my salvage efficiency. So the tutorial saying F5 to quick save to advance this tutorial. Dragon Slayer and Fangface and Bonep and Popcorn and Grey Hermit. Thanks for all the bits and the resub, Bonep. All right, now where are we going? Oh boy, where are we going? A pirate fleet is approaching. First, you'll spot it as a sensor contact, then as an unidentified fleet, and then when it gets very close, you'll see its true colors. Don't worry, the pirate ship is a shoddy rust bucket, and if you do lose, you can press F9 to quick load. Easy enough. Am I going to be playing this as a pirate or normal? It will sort of be up to you guys. I have a sort of a concept of how I'd like to play, but I'm going to be polling you once I'm out of the tutorial about the direction of this series. As always, I want my viewers' feedback. Even so, combat can be expensive, especially if there's no bounty on the enemy you fight. Deploying ships in battle reduces their combat readiness, and recovering combat readiness consumes supplies. Battle damage can cost even more supplies to repair. However, fighting is often necessary to survive. Wait for the pirate fleet to approach, and then defeat them. So as you'll see, this is an identified contact. This is basically this bubble here. I have the game paused. This bubble here is a fleet. The larger the bubble, the larger the fleet. And then that's their sensor profile. And then these two bands here, I know they're really hard to see. These two gray bands is sort of the range at which they can detect me. So I'm already inside their range. So basically, they see me, I see them. And then as we get a little bit closer, we start to resolve what this fleet is. It's an unidentified fleet. Now, the reason it's unidentified is it's not flying a transponder. A transponder, we'll get into soon, but a transponder is basically like, hey, I am me, and these are my intentions. So identified fleets that don't fly transponders typically are pirates. And then if you mouse over it, you can see that their danger is 2-star, which is pretty easy. And their maximum burn is 6. So if I wasn't in a tutorial and I wanted to get away from them, my max burn is 9. It would be pretty easy to get away from them. And then as they get really, really close here, now I can have visuals on them. So even though they're not flying their transponder or anything like that, it's very clear that they are hostile and intercepting my fleet. The pirate ship maneuvers to prevent you from disengaging easily. It does not appear to be certain of your identity. Any hostilities will have a reduced impact on your reputation. So I can try to talk to them, and they're not going to speak to me. I can attempt to disengage or move into engage. I am going to move into engage. Bonep, thanks for the gifted sub. And I Love Trees, thanks for the follow. Funny, I was just responding to a YouTube comment moments ago. Turtle Sandwich and Hannibal, thanks for the resub as well. So the tutorial here wants me to engage this pirate. And you have two choices when you engage. Sometimes you have more than two. Either I can transfer command and pick a different ship for me to command. The reason to do this is if my flagship was really damaged, I didn't want to put it into combat, I could switch which ship I commanded from. So I could enter the battle as any one of the ships in my fleet. Or continue, and in this case, continue. You can select which ships to deploy at the beginning of each battle, and deploy reinforcements as the battle goes on. Deploying a ship reduces its combat readiness by a fixed amount. In addition, the ships will begin to gradually lose combat readiness after their peak readiness time runs out. Recovering combat readiness takes time and consumes valuable supplies. So it's talking about the gradually lose combat readiness. What this is essentially each combat engagement by default, you have about 300 seconds to resolve. If you play the clock out further than 300 seconds, your ship will start to degrade. Which means that if you don't finish up the battle or have the ships that are starting to degrade leave and bring in reinforcements, they will become damaged just from being in the battle for too long, which is weird. So you're wondering about the mods. Yes, this series uses mods, but the only mods I'm using are visual graphical mods. So functionally, the game is vanilla. In the default, and I'll explain why. In the default Starsector, when you blow up enemy ships, this is the only reason I'm using mods. When you blow up enemy ships, they explode in a massive flash of white, which is very bright and extraordinarily annoying to some people. So the last time I ran a Starsector series, which was about maybe 18 months ago, that was a mod that was requested because, you know, it was sort of a epilepsy warning. It's that bright and that annoying. So the only mod I'm running is one that reduces the sort of bright flashing and does some other graphical overhauls. So now at this point, we can pick which ships to deploy into the fight. I can deploy the custom drone tender that I have here. And I can also hit F1 to see that it has some very basic weapons. It's not going to be all that helpful, but I might as well deploy it anyway. And then I can also deploy myself, and you can see that the deployment recovery is projected to be 8 supplies. I have about 35 supplies, so it is a pretty significant amount of my supplies that will be used up. And then if my ships take damage, considerable damage, that supply recovery cost will go up even more. All right, let's deploy. At this point, the battle is basically paused, and I can control the battle from a battle overhead map like this, which I never do, almost never. And what I could do is I can say, hey, drone tender, I can give it different commands here. So I can take control of it directly. I can show the video feed of that ship. I can get more info about the ship. I can tell it to escort me, which is what I'm going to do by right-clicking on my ship. So now this drone tender will become my light escort. A light escort are small ships that are just sort of following you around, making sure that you don't get destroyed. They're guarding you, in other words. I can also tell it to retreat or direct retreat. The difference between retreat and direct retreat is basically stop everything you're doing and gun it for the exits. And regular retreat is you shoot and defend yourself on the way. There's not a lot of reason to use direct retreat unless it's like a fuel ship or a civilian carrier that has basically no weapons. Because direct retreat will likely get you destroyed if you get intercepted. And then down here, it's rescind orders, basically cancel. I mean, that's pretty straightforward. And then here is a search and destroy. There's also up here a full retreat for everybody and a full assault for everybody, which are sort of easy ways to just go, hey, everyone, go attack. Then, if I hit tab, I will zoom in to the battle. And now I am controlling my Wolf. This is a Wolf-class custom frigate. The Wolf-class custom frigate has 3 weapons. It has a pulse laser, which is the primary. It has 2 swarm missiles, which are very low damage, but there's a lot of them, so they're hard for enemies to intercept. Then the third weapon is actually 2. It's a bunch of point defense. There is a... Here, if I select it, as you can see, I have 2 point defense lasers and a point, sort of an ion cannon to protect me from fighters and the like. Some important controls. If you hit 1, 2, or 3, you can see the different weapon groups. So here is the range of the laser and the firing arc. Basically, the target has to be in front of me. The missiles, slightly longer range, and there's 2 of them. They're set up to alternate fire, so that they're 2 missile salvo racks, or whatever you want to call it. And then the point defense, which is set up to auto fire. You don't want your You don't want to manually control your point defense. Trust me. Just let the game do it. All right, the rest of the information here on the left over here. It's hard to show you the left, but on the left we have 0 flux engine boost. What this means is, well, let me explain flux and hull. So flux is essentially your ability to deal with the heat that your shields and weapons generate. So when you fire weapons, it generates soft flux, which will dissipate over time. When your shields get hit, it often, not always, not all weapons generate hard flux, but it will generate soft or hard flux. Lasers tend to generate soft flux, which will dissipate over time. Hard flux can only be dissipated if you have special abilities or if you vent your flux, which is the hotkey V. Venting your flux shuts down your shields and your weapons entirely, leaving you extraordinarily vulnerable. You still can steer around. If your flux maxes out, like let's say your shields are up and you take a hit and it pushes you over the max of flux, you will overload. The harder you get hit when your shields overload, when your flux overloads, the longer you will be stunned, essentially. You'll be able to steer around, but again, your shields and your weapons will be offline. And it could be anywhere between 1 second and like 20 seconds. It really depends on how much damage that sent you into overload. There might be reasons to overload, however. Let's say, for instance, your hull is very low and the enemy shoots a massively high damaging torpedo at you. If it hits your ship, you die. If it hits your shields, you overload. In that situation, overload might be the better of two choices. So if you have 0 flux, it gives you a speed boost. Basically, if your ship isn't having to deal with the heat generated from weapons and shields, it will move faster. And then here, as you can see, it says no enemy presence, peak performance steady. Peak active performance, remaining time 180 seconds. I have 180 seconds of peak of my ship being, operating in perfect condition. And then it has my combat readiness 70%, which is standard. I have a speed of 200. Armor is a little weird in this game, but essentially the way it works is when you get shot, if you have shields up, it generates flux. If your ship gets shot, the weapon that you get hit by will then damage your ship, and you have a little bit of a buffer of armor on your ship where you don't immediately start taking hull damage, and your weapons that they shot at don't immediately start to break down. But if you continue to get shot, your weapons where you're getting shot, so let's say they shoot me right in the front. If they shoot me in the front of my ship, my pulse laser is likely to go down. If they shoot me in the back of the ship, my engines are likely to go down. There is positional damage for every sort of weapon in the game. So it's important to note. And then we have flux and hull, and then phase skimmer. Every ship has a special ability. The Wolf's special ability is a small teleport, like a blink. And then your weapon groups. And then if you want to change your weapon groups, if you have to refit to redesign your weapon groups, because you can redesign your weapon groups however you want. But if you hold control and you hit the number associated, you can turn them on auto fire or not. And Bobob, Zephyr, Ares, thanks for the resub. All right, so let's get this combat underway. So here is my special ability, and you do jump. The wolf can jump in any direction, so I can jump backwards too, like this. Where if I'm facing, whoa, hello, I jumped straight into this battle. All right, so if you see here, I have taken a little bit of armor damage, mostly on the starboard side of my ship. As you can see, it's yellow here and it's green everywhere else. It might be hard to see, but like 2/3 of my flux is hard flux, 1/3 of my flux is soft flux, because there's a little bar in the flux. And then my hull has taken, I don't know, maybe 1/20th of the damage. And you can see the flux over here as well, the bar of flux. I know it's small. I have disabled some of their weapons. I'm guessing it's my ion cannon hit them. And I can see their flux, their combat readiness, and their hull. There will be things like asteroids that you can hit. They generally don't do too much damage, but you shouldn't be speeding into them. So I could see that one of their... Oh, here comes my swarmer missiles. And I'm going to back up and vent. So at this point, I have hit my venting flux. And in the bottom here, in the red text, you can see 5 seconds remain. I can't cancel this. Once you start to vent, which is the V key, there is no stopping your venting. So if this ship was to step on the gas and close the distance between me and him, he could shoot me scot-free. I'm vulnerable for the next 5 seconds. I just think that I have enough distance between me and him that it won't matter. So my drone tender here is a small carrier. It has 100% health of its fighters. You'll be able to see his shield arc is very, very different than mine. My shield arc is maybe, I don't know, let's say 170 degrees or something. And then the drone tender, as it's not really a combat ship, only has a shield arc of like 60 or 75 degrees, something like that. Some ships can have 100% shield arc. So at this point, this enemy ship here is almost fully broken. The R key will highlight. So when I target it as R, the reason to do that is to basically tell your ships your ship's missiles who to target. So if you want your ship missiles to target something specific, because most of the ships aren't dumbfire meaning you shoot it and it just goes straight and doesn't steer. Any homing missiles will target your primary target there. I can see that its Vulcan cannons are down, its thumper is up. Yeah, let's just kill this thing. Another really important thing to note is, and this is something that a lot of new players won't know, is it is very essential to hold shift when you're in combat. So there's 2 movement routes, and in the next combat scenario, I'll explain this further. But I'll get back to that. All right, your forces were able to gain a complete victory in the last engagement. And complete victory means that there are no enemies left, no one fled, everything is destroyed. My salvage crews were able to recover 344 credits, and then I can pick through the wreckage. Picking through the wreckage, I get one of their Vulcan cannons, and then, you know, the rest of their stuff there. And then my fleet's supply consumption has just gone up. Recovering combat readiness used to deploy ships in battle costs supplies, as does repairing battle damage. To reduce supply, repairs, or combat readiness recovery on ships can be suspended from the fleet screen. So what this is saying here is, in my fleet screen, my combat readiness of my ship is 52%, and the Glory of the Stars, which is the drone tender, is 51%. And what I could say is, hey, don't bother recovering the ship, and it will just sit at 51% if I need to. You can also mothball, which is essentially turning it combat readiness to 0 and not having it supplied supplies or fuel. You can scuttle it if you're in a bad way. So if you're stranded with 0 fuel, you can scuttle ships for fuel. But I am not going to suspend the repairs. I have enough supplies on me that it won't matter. I did, however, level up. So I've gained 2 skill points and 4 story points. Learning a skill requires 1 skill point. Some skills can be made elite after they are learned. This requires a story point instead of a skill point. You will gain 1 skill point when you level up. In total, 15 skill points will be available to you after you reach maximum level. Story points. Using story points enables you to take actions that are in some way exceptional. The range of effects include making permanent modifications to ships, improving the effects of skills, officer customization, and getting dialogue options that are not otherwise available, such as disengaging unscathed from battle. You do not want. You will gain 4 story points over the course of each level. In addition, you will continue to gain story points after reaching the maximum level. Some uses of story points grant bonus experience, which doubles your experience gain until it's used up. The less long-term or impactful the use, the more bonus experience it grants. 100% bonus experience means enough to earn an extra story point, eventually compensating for the use of the story point entirely. Some of the bonus experience is granted immediately, while the remainder is gained on reaching the maximum level. I know that sounds confusing, but basically the story points allow you to, if you think of it as D&D, the story points allow you to load the dice. So it's like, oh, I'm about to get in a really bad fight, I'm going to talk my way out of this, and there's no way for me to fail. Story points are indeed new. So if you take a look here, there are 4 classes of skills. There is combat, leadership, technology, and industry. Combat skills is Hellmanship or Strike Commander. These are the first 2 that I can pick, and they're in groups of 2 for 4 of them, right? So if you think about this, we get 15 skill points total, and that means that you can fill up, you can fill up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. You sort of have to pick 3 columns not to get. For me, I'll probably focus more on combat, but I'm actually going to allow you to make that choice for me. And press F5 to quick save and advance the tutorial. Boiler, thanks for the resub. And Turn, thanks for the follow. And cheers, Trustin. All right. So this tutorial is going to tell me that I gained a level, and it will tell me about story points, and I just explained that. Press C to open the character tab. Yep, okay. I don't have to use the skill points right now. So what I'm going to do, the first question I'm going to ask you all is this. What type of skill should I gain? So we have got combat, and I'll read the options. There's Hellmanship, which increases my maneuverability, which is sort of like your turn speed, and your top speed, 10%. Maneuverability, 50%. And then the elite version of this is 0 flux speed boost is activated at any flux level as long as the ship is not generating flux. Or I can pick Strike Commander, which is more for like if I was a carrier. My missile, rocket, bombs, and torpedo hit points go up, so they're harder to shoot down. And I get extra damage to ships of destroyer size and larger. Jesus. So those are the combat ones. And then we have also got leadership. So the leadership skills here. Weapon drills, which is additional maximum damage for the combat ships. And it also allows at elite, it allows you to unlock a hull mod of advanced turret gyros, which allow your turrets to turn quicker. Or auxiliary support, which is increased combat readiness. And then hull mods of assault packages or escort packages, which increases the tankiness or the maneuverability. Then we have technology. Let me write this down. So technology is navigation. It increases your burn level. It increases the burn bonus for a sustained burn. And decreases the terrain movement penalties. This one allows you to move around faster as the fleet. Pretty important. And then the alternative one is better sensor, where you are it's harder to detect you, and you move faster when you're moving slow. So the sensors upgrade would be more if I was a smuggler. And then last but not least, we have industry. I know this is going slow. Soon we'll pick up. Bulk transport, which allows me to move more personnel, fuel, cargo, and increases the burn level of all non-militarized civilian-grade ships. Basically, if I wanted to lead a mercantile caravan, like a big trade caravan, bulk transport would be it. And salvaging increases the resources, but not rare resources, that are found after battles. I gained additional post-battle salvage, and crews are less likely to be lost when salvaging. So between those choices, we have got combat, leadership, technology, and industry. And I'm going to have you all pick the type of skill I'm going to go for, but maybe not the skill itself, so that I can sort of design a somewhat coherent character. Shortly after dispatching the pirates, you receive a tight beam communication from the system's main inhibited world, Angsira. The message is brief and asks you to travel there and contact Station Commander Linz as soon as possible. Let's lay a course in for Angsira. You do not need to do this to travel, but it helps to keep track of where you're going and how long it will take to get there. After dismissing this dialogue, press E to open the intel screen and view the details of the message you've just received. Select the message and click Show on Map button to open the map centered directly on Angsira, then left click and hold the planet and then select Lay in Course. You redeemed pet. Oh, here we go. Hey, Cerulean Spider, thanks for the resub. I think he's getting pet. You could also press tab to open the map and locate Angsira manually. Once you get to Angsira, open the comm directory and contact Station Commander Linz. So here are the two ways it tells me to do. I can E, go to the Intel tab, and then Show on Map. And it will show me where it is, and then I can just right click on it to create a waypoint there. So here's where I am, sort of in the bottom of the solar system. And now I already have a waypoint there, but I'll show you the other way. The other way would be to just hit tab and then find it myself. And then anytime that you're off course, it's in teeny little letters for you all, but if you hit A is the resume course. So anytime, if you want to steer yourself like this, you can just hit A and it will resume like an autopilot to your target. So that's what we're doing right now. Angsira is pretty far away, and it will take a while to get there at this rate. The sustained burn ability is useful for long distance travel. Activating it will briefly stop the fleet and reduce its acceleration to a minimum, but the maximum burn level will be much higher. A sustained burn can be interrupted by other fleets activating the interdiction pulse. Activate sustained burn to get to Angsira more quickly. You can also press and hold shift to speed up time. All right, so the sustained burn here allows you to basically move twice as fast, but at a massive cost of maneuverability, and also it takes a little bit of time to charge up. So if you are being chased by pirates, turning on sustained burn will actually bring you to a halt and they'll likely catch you. And then it also mentioned the interdiction pulse. The interdiction pulse is a way to sort of temporarily pause everyone around you so that you can catch them or you can stop them from catching you. All right, so let's activate the sustained burn and you'll see how we come to a grinding halt for a second and then we speed back up. And now instead of moving at 9, we're moving at 18. 20 is the maximum speed. And then if you hold left shift, it just doubles the time. You're coming up on an asteroid belt. If you go through at full speed, there's a chance your fleet may be knocked off course, and some of your ships might even suffer damage from asteroid impacts. This is new, by the way. A slow-moving fleet avoids danger. Press and hold S to move slowly until you're through the asteroid belt. The danger is low, however, especially since the belt is thin, and you're only going to go across it. So you could also get away with just going full speed. So one of the things to note here is if we take a look at the character screen again, this sensor skill gives you additional burn level when you're moving slow. Essentially, you can move through asteroid belts faster with good sensors, which makes sense. It's an interesting benefit. And taking a look, it looks like industry, oddly enough, is the leader. Wow, no one wants combat, huh? I'm going to leave it up just a little bit longer. So that more people can vote. So here, I'm holding S, and we've moved through slowly. Now, everywhere we go, there is going to be things that you enter into. So down here, in this bar here, right now it's telling me that I'm moving through a nebula. My fleet's speed is reduced by 5%. And then we hide in here better. It is 50% reduced range that which we get, detected. So it reduces the travel of large fleets. So one of the interesting things about a nebula here is that really, really, really large fleets travel slowly through nebulas. So if you're a small fleet and you have a large fleet bearing down on you, you can ditch into a nebula to avoid being caught. Now, as we approach Angsira, I don't think I need to say this, but don't fly into suns. It will mess you right up. The game allows you to fly into a sun for a little bit, but you will take a lot of damage. Your fleet is getting very close to Angsira, which is controlled by the Hegemony, a major militaristic faction in the sector. While in Hegemony space, a fleet is required by law to identify itself by keeping its transponder turned on. This is a view shared by most, though not all, major factions. Turning on the transponder makes your fleet highly visible, and everyone seeing it will know who you are. Unlike that pirate fleet you fought earlier, which had to be very close to positively identify. Keeping your transponder on is a crippling disadvantage in hostile space, but as we're getting closer to port we'd like to dock there, it's a good idea to turn it on. Activate the transponder before getting closer to Angsira, both to avoid unwanted attention from patrols and receive docking clearance. Since turning it on and off has major consequences, it requires a double tap to turn it on or off. Once to prime and once more to confirm. So now our transponder is on, and if you look down here, our sensor profile goes up by 1,000 because of the transponder bar is on, and also goes up by 100% due to sustained burn. Basically, transponder on and sustained burn means everybody hears and sees us coming. So we have a massive sensor profile now. It's about 2,000 units per map grid, and we're at 1780. So if you take a look at the map grid, everybody within sort of this box here knows who I am and what I'm about because of how loudly we're going about it. So here is the world that it wanted me to travel to. And then we were told once we get here to open the comms directory and talk to Linz. But instead of talking to Linz, I'm going to ignore that and sell some stuff. So there are different ways to sell stuff. You can sell on the open market and you'll be tariffed, or you can sell on the black market and you won't be tariffed. The disadvantage of selling on the black market is if you move enough volume, the solar system security, basically the security forces of, in this case, the hegemony, will know that I've done black market deals because they know how much cargo, they don't know what my cargo is necessarily, but they know how much cargo I have. And if I offload or onload way too much cargo, they know I've done some black market trading. So if you're trading in small volumes, there's really not a lot of disadvantages to selling to the black market. And it will tell you, as you can see, if you are being, if you're suspicious or not. But in this case, I'm only going to be selling little metals and a single gun. It's not much of a problem. So this is the buying and selling of weapons, ships, trade goods, fuel, etc., etc. Then you have refit. When refitting a ship while docked at a station, you can mount both the weapons in your cargo hold and the ones available to purchase at the station. Undoing the changes to the ship's loadout or simply unmounting the purchased weapons will refund its credits used. So essentially what it's saying is, if I switch a weapon out here, like this Swarmer, to something else that's in the open market or the black market, it will cost me, when I confirm, it will cost me credits. But if I don't do it, it won't cost me any credits. And then here's the weapon groups I was talking about. I'm going to put the ion cannon on a different weapon group than the PD lasers. I like it that way. And then here's the other ship I have with a borer drone, a Vulcan cannon, and a salamander. And I'm not going to get too deep into the ship designing yet. So I've shown you where you can buy stuff, you can refit, and then there's fleet. where you can sell or buy ships. So here, there is no ships to buy in the open market, only because I think we're in the story mode. But in the black market, there are 4 ships. And one of the things to note is these orange things is demods. The sort of the concept of the demod is like damage to the ship. So this Wolf, for instance, has degraded engines, degraded life support, compromised armor, glitch sensor array, and degraded shields. It is a very, very, very damaged ship, which is why it has been discounted. There is a bit of a meta. I actually don't know if it's the meta anymore, but there used to be a bit of a meta where you could purposely take a bunch of demodded ships to make it cheaper to run. I don't know if they've left that skill point in. But either way, for your flagship, you probably don't want a bunch of demodded ships, I'd imagine. It looks to me like you guys have voted technology for the first skill, so I'm going to get navigation. And then I'm also going to, I'm going to get navigation. And then, let's see, what next skills should I gain? Because I do have 2 skill points. Considering your military options is like attacking the planet, this would be a dreadful idea because I have a tiny little fleet and they don't. But we can launch a raid, consider an orbital environment, or engage the orbital station. You can't do the other 2 until the orbital station is gone, and the orbital station would blow me up in a heartbeat. Then there is take a shuttle down to visit the dockside bar. There's no one here, but normally there would be, and they would offer you missions and try to sell you stuff, give you loans, that kind of thing. And then let's do the mission I was told to do, which is to talk to Whitney Linz. But before that, there's Lindsay Jingxing, which is an officer for hire. They are an independent officer. They're available for hire. And then I can ask, what can you do? And this officer has hellmanship, and their personality is cautious. So personality matters a lot. Cautious is maybe good for like a carrier, you know, a large ship full of fighters, something like that. But it's not particularly good personality for an attack ship. I don't suspect I'm going to have a carrier anytime soon, so I'm going to say no, I'm not going to hire her. She doesn't have the right personality. Your officers can only level up to 5, so it is also important to pick officers that have skills that you particularly care about. Cautious is good for carriers or long-range missile boats, neither of which I intend to use, not now, at least. All right, so let's go talk to Linz. Establishing connection. Your connection request is accepted surprisingly quickly, given that a citizen has many responsibilities. Ah, you've come. Excellent. As you're well aware, recently, well, I suppose we can skip that part. So I'm going to say a refresher on recent events, just to get into a little bit of the lore. But another thing to note is that Whitney Linz here is a citizen that is a station commander that works for the hegemony, and I have a neutral relationship to her and a neutral relationship to the hegemony. A team from the Galatia Academy has been running experiments on the dormant gate in the system, trying to connect it back to the domain gate network. Promising experiments, or so they thought, until an energy pulse we expected would get a response from the gate, destabilize the jump points leading into the system, cutting us off from the rest of the sector. It's rather like how the sector is cut off from the domain. Writ small, the stars have a sense of irony, do they not? So essentially, where I am now, they experimented and they broke the gates, and I'll show you those soon. The miners of the Daran Kuyu station, which is also located in the system and was operating near the subsistence level, were hit the hardest. They turned to piracy, intercepting one of the last food shipments to come in. Out of desperation, no doubt, but there were deaths, and they've put themselves well outside the law. Their leaders know that if jump points are stabilized and the system is once again part of the sector, they can look forward to a life sentence at a penal colony at the absolute best. Where do I fit in? The miners turned pirates are guarding the jump points, preventing us from gathering recent readings and coming up with a way to stabilize them. We do have a security detachment that could handle their forces, but they're tied up defending Angsira. The pirates are too much for you to take on, but fortunately, you don't have to. You've got an agent on the Kuyu station who is able to gain access to the recent sensor readings from the ships guarding the jump points, but they have not been able to get a long-range comm array to send the data to us. That's where you come in. Head to Kuyu and retrieve the data from our agent, then return here. Let's say, what's in it for me? A mercenary. Some credits, naturally, with more along the way. If all goes to plan, we'll be able to reconnect the rest of the sector, such as it is. Gained 2,000 credits. What's the plan? First off, make sure to turn off your transponder once you undock. I've instructed the security detachment not to give you any trouble about that. If you're lucky, the pirates may even think you're one of their own and may let you approach Daran Kuyu without any trouble. Still, it makes sense to go dark as you get closer, to make sure they can't get too good at reading, get a good reading on your fleet. You can also approach along the asteroid belt. That'll give you almost perfect cover as long as you're moving slowly. And if they notice me, then you're in trouble. Activate emergency burn to get out of there. Lose them and then come back around and try again. Don't e-burn unless you really need to, though it's hard on the ships and costs you supplies to recover from. It eats up a good chunk of fuel too. Excellent, thank you. Okay, so let's leave. So we have just unlocked 2 new abilities. We have unlocked Go Dark. So Go Dark makes us move much more slowly, but hides our sensor profile. And then we've also given the emergency burn. It increases the maximum burn level by 8, reducing sensor range by 50%, and increases the range at which the fleet can be detected by 50%. Basically, it's a hard burn. It consumes fuel and supplies to recover, but it's a sort of very quickly floor it, accelerate, which can be useful. So we need to go to the Daran Kuyu mining station up here. And she did mention that we can try to approach going dark or go along the asteroid belt for almost perfect cover. And it wanted us to save to continue. So right now, I am sustained burning, so our sensor profile is rather large. And as we get a little closer, I'm going to turn off the sustained burn, dropping our sensor profile to 390. And then as we get a little bit more close to it, I will go dark. There's no need to go dark so early because there's nothing to even detect us. But we just also, oops, that's not what I meant to do. We just entered a debris field that I'm going to salvage. And we have too much fuel, so I'm going to ditch one fuel. Alright, so if we really wanted to do this very stealthy, as you can see in this asteroid belt, our sensor profile is almost nothing, which means nothing can see us. We can sneak up on this mining station with very little trouble, and there we go, we docked. Now I need to contact May Riggs. You contact the agent using a special comms ID and exchange passphrases to verify each other's identities. The agent then transmits a data file with recent raw sensor readings of the unstable jump points. While I'm here, because I am here, I can also trade on the pirate open market or the pirate black market, which is odd, I know. Again, still tariffs, so sell to the black market, of course. And then let's see, is there any weapons that I want being sold here? No, I don't think so. I'm always looking out for weapons. So here is a insulated engine assembly. This reduces the ship sensor profile by 50%. This would be a smuggler engine mod. Okay, So we got what we came for. I can also talk to people here, but they're pirates. They don't like me, so they're not going to have much to say. And then let's just go wander out away. And now I'm even sustain burning away because, you know, we're far enough away from them that they can't even bother us. Because you had me go for the navigation skill, I am able to burn at level 20, which means that nothing can catch me. That's max speed. Also looks like you guys want me to get industry next. So taking a look at industry, I'm definitely going to get salvaging over bulk transport. I care not for bulk transport, so let's do that. And salvaging gives us more post-battle salvage and better resources from salvaging, and our crews are lost at lower rates. Okay. Here's another debris field around this gate. So there we go. As you can see, the amount of stuff I'm getting here, a little more than normal. I am also over my fuel capacity considerably, which I am paying for in supplies. So if you have too much cargo or too much fuel, you'll use up more supplies. So it's going to be important for me to sell this fuel. If you hold control, it sells all the fuel until you're maxed. So if you see here, I have 70 out of 60 and I hold control, I'm going to sell just enough to be at max fuel. I'm actually going to bring this down a little bit so that I can loot more fuel and still not be above max. And then let's sell the metal as well. I will hire 16 crew to be max personnel capacity. And yeah, we're good. Let's talk to Linz again. And my relationship with the hegemony gone up 2. My relationship with Linz gone up 4. Relationship with individuals in previous versions, I don't know if it's still true, but in previous versions was not really all that important, but your relationship to a faction is pretty important. So, you have the data. Well done. There's a brief wait as you transmit the data file. Now, while the system is running, a preliminary analysis of the data, I believe you are due a reward. We gain 5,000 credits. There's a chime in the background and she looks concerned. Yes, the system estimates it'd take about a cycle to analyze the data and come up with a stabilization algorithm. Naturally, by then, the data would be out of date and any algorithm based on it meaningless. If we had an AI core on hand, we could analyze the data more quickly. Unfortunately, there is a survey probe, fortunately, there's a survey probe somewhere in the system, one left over from an initial exploration of the sector by the domain. It should have at least one AI core serving as its brain. Where is it, and why hasn't it been salvaged before? To answer your second question, the domain artifacts are usually protected by automated defenses that still function to this day, and the probe is no exception. The hegemony generally forbids civilian interference with domain artifacts for the sake of public safety, of course. Desperate times, however. So let me explain a little bit of the lore here. There was an AI ship uprising, and the people blamed AI cores for their uprising. So AI cores are rare. Some of them, not all of them. They're rare, expensive, and illegal almost everywhere. As to where it is, my data indicates it's somewhere beyond the orbit of Pontus. Get there, then head out and activate the active sensor burst. You should be at very least get a sensor contact with the probe. So the sensor burst is sort of like sonar, where you send out a ping and it pings back. It allows you to see things further than your sensor range. But when you sensor burst, you are also very visible. So if you're sensor bursting your pirates are going to know that they got hit by a sensor burst. All right. Let's see. Is there anything to buy? No, not really. I'm going to see if there's anything to refit on my ship. Wow, no, they really don't have anything for sale. Never mind. All right, let's leave. So if we take a look here, Pontus. Pontus is this gas giant. So she's saying that it's somewhere beyond Pontus, like around here. So let's go there. And again, don't fly into the sun. Easy to do, and unfortunate when it happens. So here's Pontus. The active sensor burst here is 8. And down here, there was a bit of a ping on my radar map. Right there. Unidentified sensor contact. So that's where we're headed. Is there a fuel scoop? I don't think so, no. This isn't Stargate Universe. And there it is, Domain Error Probe. I gained 500 experience just for seeing it. And bring us in. Your fleet approaches a domain error probe left from initial domain exploration of the sector. Pitted by small impacts, the probe's hull displays iridescence typical of fearsome radiation scarring. Though this probe's manufacture could well date to 1,000 cycles ago, some systems are nominally active. Explore. As your fleet moves in closer, several energy signatures are detected coming online inside the probe's hold. Basically, it's dumping out enemy ships on me. And we are going to defend ourselves. I'm going to take my main ship and then tell the drone tender to protect me. Thank you for watching Starsector, which originally aired live on Twitch. If you have any feedback for me, let me know in the comments below. If you wish to catch a live stream, Rhadamant.com has my stream schedule and countdown timers to upcoming streams. Thank you for watching. I'll catch you next episode or perhaps an upcoming stream. Farewell.